that I hadn't heard. I hadn't heard from her yet. Though I got 2 emails here. Nope, not from her. Okay. So my hope is that she'll be here and we can talk about that. I know she wasn't here for the last meeting that we had, which I think gave some very valuable feedback for her team. Jess, that should be available on the recording. That should be available to her, though, right?
Oh yeah, all these are recorded and they're on YouTube.
Great. So let's work that out. Let me we'll give them a few more minutes here because it's just past 6. Because Martin, I was just saying that one of the things that we had asked for after the common council meeting was for them to extend the deadline for when the final reports due.
Right.
I haven't, and I know that Chief said that he was totally on board, but we haven't heard anything formally from them saying, "Oh yes, we've moved the timeline out to here." I know they've been struggling to focus on the city budget, which still isn't passed. So that's probably why we haven't heard anything.
Right.
Hopefully, they'll wrap that up. If not this week, I think next week.
That's what I think they have, like until the 30th to get it passed.
Yeah, they usually like to do it sooner than that. I haven't heard about anything too controversial this year, which is nice.
Right.
It's a nice change. So hopefully that will, once they knock that out of the way, they'll move this along pretty quickly. Because really it should be more of a pro forma. We just want to amend the initiating rather than the solution to extend the deadline for the final report to X date. And I doubt, based on the reception that we got, that anyone would oppose that. So let's see. How much from Jeff? Though I'm hoping, no, nothing from Jeff. Though I know Jeff was getting married recently. That's why he wasn't going to be at the last meeting, which which was, it worked out well that the Zoom didn't work, Jess, because Jeff was not able to attend because he was getting married. It's like, oh, okay, well, congratulations.
Yeah, congrats to him.
Yeah, it's a nice bonus. Let me just see where we're at here. Okay. There's my email from Jess. Oh, my text from Jess. Okay. Okay, here's Jeff. Okay, let's drop Jeff a text. So briefly, Josh, I just want to touch base with you. I see you're on mute.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. So basically what I want to do, as I said, because I'm just going to get started, because I mean, again, I haven't heard from people that they aren't coming, but it's that weird time of year. While I'm doing that, Jess, can you drop a quick note to Diana just to see where she's at?
Sure. I don't have her number, but I can shoot her an email real quick.
Great. Thank you. All right. Martin, let's see. Let me start with you. So I think we have a little more specifics to shoot for to pin them down costs.
Yeah,
How
so,
much effort do you think that's going to be to?
so, I mean, basically, it kind of, depends on, ultimately what we're deciding on choosing and stuff, though I think, from the feedback that we've gotten and stuff,
Mhm.
I was, looking at, rewatching the meeting again and, did notice that, I think one of the councilmen had a, question about like, cost. And I think, it was reflected in the Times Union article. So that's, I think I see that as a big issue. That's, one of the big issues that if we do develop this is that, whatever we do decide upon, like, we'd have to get public buy-in and stuff.
Right.
And the second meeting with the representative from Albany County's commission,
Right.
what really influenced me was the fact that, he had mentioned that to create a bureaucracy to kind of administer cost would cost a substantial amount of resources, and that it might be simpler just to, provide a free service.
Well, I know that that's an option. I think the concerns that I had, I understood where he was coming from. If it was going to be done internally by the city, that's absolutely true. And there will certainly be costs involved, no matter what model. I think it makes sense to look at the free service building on the existing free service on the existing free service network that was out there as an initial step while we put the mechanisms in place for this. And I think his confusion was it depends on what we ask an authority to actually do.
Right. And I actually am very agreeable to, basically using the, what was the Albany FreeNet as kind of like a starting point of, getting something set up in the meantime.
Right. What I like too was Brian's thought was, okay, let's build let's reach out to the states and just they reach out to the state, build on the existing bandwidth the state has that isn't being used to sort of add on to that. As he pointed out, there's a lot of cable that the state has run throughout the city that has bandwidth that isn't being used. So it may be a way to sort of, if we look at the FreeNet, which would need to have upgrades made to the equipment because it's now about 20 years past life. And we look at what the Sustainability Commission is already looking at doing with the nodes on light poles through the believe it's the Pearl Street corridor. Those are two ways to sort of start that in that sort of phased one approach.
Right.
I think anything that we do would have to have a phased approach to it. So if we say, well, phase one is we determine the viability of this using the existing resources that are here in conjunction with this and this, the cost of which would come in less because we're using existing resources and making minimal upgrades to the the actual equipment. See, here's the thing. Regardless of whether you do it, well, I mean, we or or if we do it or if we hire a person to do it, there's going to be a cost related to that work. The question is, who do we want having to deal with the contractors? Who do we want to have to deal with the coordination of work? Right now, you have an IT department in the city that's roughly 3-4 people. Luke, if I'm right.
About 4, yeah, 5.
Yeah.
5.
And you have your hands full now. Mark made that clear. So that's not a realistic proposal. Unless you add staff to that department, which I think would be a good idea just on spec add people to the IT department, but that's me. But if you create an authority whose role really is to manage the administrative side, you have a streamlined authority with bond authority to administer this, which doesn't add to the burden of the existing city departments, which is, I think, critical.
Yeah, as it stands
And-
right now, we're very internal focused. Yeah.
Right. It's really not the way you're set up. And to make that shift reasonably, at a minimum, you'd have to add staff, you'd have to train them up, they'd have to be familiar with city processes, they'd have to work with the attorneys. So rather than take resources from the internal environment, which is really in need of a solid focus, we need to have a second mechanism that can take care of this sort of externally focused project. And certainly the city has shown a willingness to create new city departments. They just created their new neighborhoods department. Alyssa Kane is one of the people that's in charge. And I think Faye is going to head up. Is going to be, I think Faye Ann Andrews is actually going to be the commissioner for it, from what I'm hearing. So clearly, it's within the city's capacity and their willingness to create new organs of city government to handle tasks that are critical to the future of the city. We need, I think, to demonstrate to them that this is one of those cases. And they can either do it internally by creating a city department for that, or a city office for that purpose, or pursue the authority side, which one protects the city from the bulk of any cost liability associated with it, while retaining control of the process for creating it itself and the costs that are charged for it, and to making sure that it's a service that can fully integrate with existing city service, and that with existing city services and networks. Something to think about. What I would say is what we may look at is presenting a series of alternatives. Here's, option 1, option 2, option 3. Here are the costs associated with each one of those, and here's where those costs come in into play. And in each case, there will be some common elements. If it's an administrative authority, they're still going to do an RFP process. Ask for firms that might be interested in doing this, as with the city if they're doing it internally. We have an RFP. Here are the terms of that. Here's the length of contract. Evaluate the proposals. The question is, does it come straight out of the city budget, or do you have an authority for which state funds are received to target the creation and the administrative setup, which could be a possibility, would qualify for grants and aid in conjunction with other city programs, also a possibility. And if necessary, once they have received the proposals and agreed on one, issue bonds for the initial to cover the initial costs of the contract itself, pending matching funds being received from the feds to cover the cost of any construction construction parts of the broadband network itself. The grant money from the feds won't cover ongoing maintenance or service. But it is, but I believe last time I looked, it could be categorized for construction of the nodes, laying of cable, planning costs. So that's where that would be of use to us. So Martin, that's just some vague thoughts on that.
No, it's all helpful.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is, what I want to do is, the question is really what steps we take first. That's why I really hope that they join us here. Because I think the ideal model group needs to sort of give us a little more guidance based on the feedback based on the feedback that's received. And certainly you and your people could get started, but it might help your process as if it was a little more focused. And we've agreed
Definitely, like, wherever direction we decide, the commission decides to go will influence, what cost will
sure
be. So
yeah, we don't want to take a shoot ready aim approach. It's okay. Let's get it down fair first, and, pick our targets. And I think realistically, as I say, given the time of year that we're going into now, which we know can be very time consuming, because we all have relatives that we have to deal with and our own lives to deal with, and plus weather to deal with, and end of year work to deal with. That I want you to have the time to go from now, preferably through the first month of the year, to sort of start to pin this stuff down. But then what we'll do is do touch point meetings during that period, saying, okay, here's what we have, here's what we need, and then sort of channel that back to you. Okay, yes, you said you need more from this type of cost or this type of data. Who can we bring in that might be able to assist us with that process? To me, the final report is going to be the heart of it, even more than with the first draft, is going to be the cost piece and the ideal model piece. The back end recommendations that come out of those two, we can sort of refine once we have those two down. At least that's my thoughts on it. If anyone feels differently, please, this is the time to share that. And if you have any thoughts on it between now and any point during the process, please share it. This is very much a team approach to this. Haven't heard anything. Okay, nothing from Jeff. Okay, Jessica, do you hear anything from Dayon on that?
No, I haven't heard anything.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay, I'm gonna move this over here just so I can keep an eye on this. Okay. All right. So I think Josh, what's your availability looking like to do more of the benchmarking piece? I mean, I know you've had your hands full.
Yeah. So I am kind of, I mean, it's hard to say.
Okay.
The budget season is starting. So I kind of, it's
Yeah.
going to be very chaotic for me.
Sure.
And I'm also doing extra work outside of my normal 9 to 5, some contract work.
Oh, okay, cool.
But I mean, if we need me to do more, or, I can make time for it.
Well, the only thing I'd say is that we did have a couple suggestions that were sent to me for communities for us to look at.
Mhm.
St. Louis being chief among them.
Okay.
So if you want to, I mean, we don't have a fixed deadline on that. As I say, it doesn't have to be like by next meeting. Look, no. Take a look, see if there's anything that we think might be of use to us. I'll take a look too. I'm going to try and set up a sub meeting for you and I and Ed at a time that worked for all three of us.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. And I'm going to try to, Martin, I'd like to set up a meeting with you and I and Jeff and Day to sort of to sort of coordinate things between your teams.
Yeah, no, I definitely would be open to that.
Yeah. We'll see what we can put on what we can put on the books. So I really want to, as I say, this needs to be a more coordinated focus between those two pieces. And really, she's the cart that needs to go before the horse at this point. So if her availability has started to change for some reason, we'll need to adjust that, and that may be a thing that Brian might be able to step up to assist with, given his experience, to work on the ideal model team more, if that makes sense. All right.
I had a thought. I don't know if this makes any sense, but I thought I would maybe share it.
Yeah.
Since we're looking to add more people to the commission to help us out, like to make up for some of the losses we've had.
Yeah.
Would it make sense to reach out to maybe like the Albany Planning Department? Like I don't want to necessarily pack the commission
Sure.
with a bunch of planners just because I used to be a planner.
No.
But I feel like that's a very like a group that specifically would be very
I would
interested
agree
in
with you
this
totally.
work. Yeah.
I think that's a very good idea. A very good idea. The hard part for us is the mechanism by which we can add people to the commission.
Right.
Which is it has to flow through the city council and the mayor's office.
Yeah.
Actually, both. Because depending on, and just as the complicating piece with the three vacancies that we believe we have, is the question is whose appointees were those three? Because the mayor got so many picks, the common council got so many picks. So we sort of need to pin down who really needs to pick what. Are all three the responsibility of the council? Are two of them? Are one of them?
So I know one of them is definitely the council.
Right.
But I can go back and check to see what the other ones are.
Thank you. I think that would be because the mayor, I mean, I think it's still subject to the agreement of the council, but if she says, well, hey, I'd really like to put this person on to fill that vacancy, that may be the nudge to get people to sort of address the two that aren't hers.
Yeah. Who were the other two people that we lost? Just so I can kind of reference.
Scott, Ira, and I'm blanking on the last name. And Caitlin, we haven't heard a peep out of in gotta be close to 11 months now.
Oh, okay.
And I've reached out to her, and I believe you reached out to her at least once.
Yeah.
And she had said she'd come to the one meeting and never heard from her again and hasn't responded to any communication. Now we've been, trying to be good about that because I know she's had a lot on her plate. She was sick. They had a death in the family. But if she's not able to do it, I think we need to fill that seat. So that's kind of a sensitive. The other way to get around that right now is the third one we could say was the vacancy that was never filled from day one. So that may be the easier way, and until we know from her, is she formally not able to do this? Or what's the story?
Right, I'm trying to connect to the VPN now, just
Sure.
to see if I can tell exactly what those are.
Sure, it's fine. I mean, there's no rush in it right this second. It would just be a useful thing to know. If you could just shoot me an email about it when you get it, that's fine.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. All right. Just heard from Jeff. He will not be able to be at the meeting. He's out of pocket, and he'll catch up with us later this week. So that's Jeff at least. All right. But yeah, Josh, I think you have a very good idea. I think we want to start to leverage, especially for the vacancies, some of the organizations that were on our partnerships list. I mean, Scott really has not been actively involved since he moved south, but the library has been very good about providing broadband access to city residents in areas that aren't being served or have a lower quality, have a lower level of service. So maybe they want to look to see if the new director for the library wants to sort of step into Scott's place. Seeing as they hopefully may be part of any let's call it kind of phase one solution, Martin, that we just talked about.
Right. I mean, one thing that we could probably, encourage is, basically say as kind of like a pre-stopgap measure, like encourage public entities like our, libraries, schools to, provide, free Wi-Fi access around them if necessary.
Right, which they are doing now. I mean, the library is doing that now.
Oh yeah, the library's doing that
Right.
now.
But I mean, it's a thing for. But I think to Josh's point, the university does have its own planning department for a reason. It's a considerably sized, and they do a lot of layouts for all manner of tech projects. And they just hire, well, they're about to hire an entire department worth of people to look at just AI. They're hiring 27 faculty. Create a new department, basically at the university. It's kind of a huge deal. So, and plus you have the Center for Technology and Government. So it might make sense to sort of say, well, if we're looking for groups to partner with to make this happen, maybe it would be a good idea to have some of those those groups have a seat at the planning table to assist us as we move ahead with those efforts. We encourage buy-in from those type of groups as we move ahead into this final phase, because they bring in not just knowledge, but resources that we don't currently have, because we have no budget for this commission. And they have research staff and research capacity and expertise, both from a planning and a tech point of view. But we'll see. Okay, I'll add that to my list of things to follow up on with. All right, is there anything else that anyone wants to bring up at this point? If not, I'm going to let us go, because I know, Martin, you have to leave at 6:40, and it's 6:30 now.
So one thing I just wanted to clarify with the meeting time. So November 30th, we're canceling that one.
Yep.
And then the only other two we currently have scheduled are December 14th and December 28th. Are we keeping both of those, or are we getting rid of them?
I would keep the 14th. Let's take the 28th off the books for right now.
Okay.
I think that makes sense. And then after the first of the year, look to go back to our two meetings a month approach. But again, we'll do some informal meetings, like the sub team meetings, between our once a month meetings. But realistically, Right now, I think it's going to come down to the sub to focusing on the sub team's work. And I want to tighten that up. I know we couldn't do our last meeting. The intent of the last meeting was sort of a refocus on where are we going next was the plan for that meeting. But we're sort of throwing dates out at the last minute. So let's plan that a little more carefully and make sure that the people that we need at the meeting are really at the meeting. I appreciate, Martin, that you and Josh showed Matt and Jess that you're here, and Luke that you're here. But we need some of the bodies that we know are going to be working on the core of this final report present as well. All right.
If we have like trouble like finding a time for a meeting, could
Yeah.
we potentially like put together like a big email that could kind of maybe like
Yes.
it'll have direction for each subgroup and overall direction?
I think that's a good idea. We can start that, Shane.
Yeah, okay. Because that if people are having trouble, like I know I have a lot of trouble sometimes if I'm working late, like making it to the meetings, but
Sure.
email is easier for anyone to just look at when they have time.
I think that makes sense. And it gives us sort of a guide as we move ahead too. That sort of middle, step being between meetings.
Right.
College.
Yeah.
Because right now we're all running and gunning pretty hard. So, it's that time of year in the state of New York. So,
Yep.
we'll see if we can make that happen. I think, Jess, was there anything else that you wanted to bring up, or Luke that you wanted to bring bring up?
Nope.
No,
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, then let's call this a wrap at 6:35. Martin, you've got a few minutes to breathe before you go to your next. And thanks very much for coming.